Hi everybody, my name is Diane Fago and I am an art journaler. I do collage, I do junk journals, I do mixed media and things like that. And I am currently working on the last 4 pages in my collage journal, and I am sharing the process of putting those pages together from beginning to end. So this is probably maybe the 3rd video about this. I shared earlier my choosing the images for the pages that I'm working on right now, and today I am going to show you how I cut out these super intricate florals. So I'm not sure if this is the one that I'm going to use for this page, but a lot of times I still go ahead and cut them out just to see, and even if it doesn't work, then I've got something already kind of ready and waiting that I could use in a page in the future. So I am going to turn the camera around and get started, and we'll cut some of this out. I don't know if we'll get all of it. It's got some really thin places in here to cut out, so I'll just kind of show you some of the ways that I work with these images like this when I'm cutting them out. So I hope that you enjoy this, and I'm going to turn you around. Are you ready? Hey everybody, this is after this video. I've been sitting here editing it, and I just wanted to let you know that the first part of this video is out of focus. I've been using my phone to video lately instead of my regular camera, and I keep forgetting to check to make sure that it's in focus. So the first 15 minutes or so, it's out of focus. It's not awful, but it is out of focus. So I just wanted to let you know that it does clear up. So I hope that you stick with me through that first part where it's a little bit on the blurry side, because as I am talking through this, and this is also long, it's a long video, but as I am cutting out this image, I just am sharing with you just ideas and thoughts that I have as I am cutting them out that come to my mind. So in that first few minutes that's blurry, I do have a lot of information that I share with you, so I hope that you stick around through that first part and to get to where it zooms in and it's all clear. So I just wanted to let you know that, and I am trying really hard to remember to just think about things being focused. So I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. So here's the video. First off, I wanted to show you this, what I started last night, because I'm super excited about it. And I have started cutting out papers to make collage journals that I am going to sell in my shop. So, because mine is almost finished and I needed to make my next one, so I've started making mine, and I had bought paper a while ago to make journals to sell, and I am starting to cut the paper to put those together, so that is super exciting. I am not going to sell them in my Etsy shop. I am actually going to move my Etsy shop and have everything over on my coffee page, just so everything is all contained in one space, since you can have your shop on a coffee page, which is really cool. So that is where they will go whenever I get them finished. It will take me a little while, but hey, I'm finally getting started on them. So I just thought I would show you that really quick. Don't look at my floor. This is what my floor looks like all the time. I do sweep it a lot, but hey, I do a lot of cutting out of the things. So here's what I've got so far. So I'm gonna put you up so that we can get started cutting this out. So here is my new journal that I am starting to get put together. I have decided to make it smaller than the previous one. I am only going to put 3 signatures in it. This one has 4, and it is not handling all of my collage work very well. So it down here, as I've been working on the pages down here, they have been pretty difficult to work on because it's just curved so much. So I think it would be best for me to cut this down and only have 3 signatures instead of 4. It's going to be different for everybody depending on, you know, how much they put in here as far as if they do collage, if they do mixed media, if they do both. But I think taking this down to 3 is going to be a good number. It won't be, you know, so small that it's only 2, but I feel that 4 for the next one is going to be too big. So that is super exciting. And let me get that to the side. And then for this, I just have my little cutting mat that I've had forever from my scrapbooking days, ages ago. I also have a bigger one that fits, well, the one that was on the floor, that blue one, that fits on my entire workspace. That's actually one for quilting, because I used to do a lot of quilting, and it works great sometimes, and I've had that on my desk before, but I just, for some reason, like working on this small one. But yeah, just old cutting mat that I've had forever. And then as far as cutting tools go, I really don't have anything fancy that I use. I think I've shared these in another video, but I've just got these. Here's just your regular old X-Acto knife. It's fine. It's what I've had forever. Then I acquired this one that when my mom passed away, there's actually more to it. It's actually this right here. And this was my mom's, and when she passed away, it became mine. And so it has, you know, a variety of different blades in it. I don't know if I'll ever use those. It did have this little attachment for this little light, and that was really annoying, and so I cut it off. But I like this one because it's more comfortable to hold on to. It's, you know, it's bigger. It's a little bit, my hand doesn't feel as strained holding this because it's a little bit bigger. The blades on this are pretty cool since they're, you know, so much smaller as far as this part of it goes. But besides that, you know, it's just the size is maybe the reason why I have used it. If I got tired of using this one. And then one day I was at Michael's and looking for, I don't even remember what, and I saw this Fiskars one, and I do like it. I picked it up because I thought, oh, hey, you know, that actually might be kind of nice, and I was just kind of wanting something different. For years and years and years, probably, well, it's been probably over 10 years now, I've basically put myself on no buy. When I first started doing art journaling, I had to buy all the things and all the paints and all the supplies and all the tools, and even with scrapbooking, you know, you had to have all the stuff, and I didn't use so much of it. And so a long time ago, I told myself that I can only buy something new if it's replacing something like adhesive, or if something breaks, or it gets lost, or if it's a new tool that I for sure 100% know that I will use, then I will go ahead and buy it. Good case in point, I bought a jelly plate ages ago, and I just now played around with it last summer, I think. And so I probably had that jelly plate at least 6, 7, 8 years maybe, and I did not touch it until like last summer, and that lasted maybe a day, and I haven't touched it since then. So that is just a reason why I am no buy. And even with paint, if I use up all of a color, and if I don't think that I'm going to use it again, I will not replace it. But if it's a favorite color that I use all the time, then I will go ahead and buy a new one. But so anyways, I justified purchasing this, that, you know, since I have been doing so much collage work, that it might be a good investment for me to do, and I do like it a lot. It is kind of triangle shaped, and so it is a lot more comfortable to hold than this. But as far as the blades go, they are all the same. They're all interchangeable with these different handles. So for me, it's more of a handle preference, just comfort than the blades, because I just have these X-Acto blades that I use with it, and as soon as they start getting too not sharp, then I'll change it. And this one, I actually need to change this because I was trying to work on something last night and it kept on snagging the paper, and I don't change these a lot. I probably don't change them as much as I should. So I usually kind of wait until they start messing up my paper, and when they start just not cutting well at all, then I will switch to a new one. But I will get the most out of this as I possibly can before I change it. And actually, let me see. I don't know. I started cutting this one out last night, and it just, I don't know if I can explain how it pulls the paper, but basically that's another reason why I like this one, is it doesn't roll off my work area. My area isn't completely level because I work on an easel that is laid flat, and then I have this piece of board on it. So it's really difficult for me to keep it level all the time. And so anything like that rolls off. So that's another reason why I like this one. It doesn't go anywhere. But when I was cutting, I probably won't be able to do it, but when I'm trying to cut these super intricate spaces in here, and it starts to snag, which there's a spot right there where it started to snag. I don't know if I can do this on my phone. I don't know if you can see right there how the paper is kind of buckled up a little bit. It's got like a little tear. It like grabs it. It grabs the paper and pulls it and tears it that way instead of slicing through it. When it starts doing that, and I tried a few times on this one and it kept on doing it, and it was late at night and I was tired, and I finally was like, okay, I need to put this down because I need to change the blade. For some reason, I can't get into my head that I need to change the blade, and I was tired, and so I just set it to the side. So with this one though, it's really easy. You just pull that out and make sure you pull it out and open that, and that opens up this bottom so you can take the blade off. And then the good thing with this is that you put the used ones in there, and then you slide a new one out and put a new one in, and that's it. So besides that, I just really like how this one is easy to hold, doesn't roll out of my desk. These are easy too. You just unscrew this, if I can, there. You just unscrew it, pull out the blade, and then put the new one in the little cross hatch place there, which this blade is really old and dirty and needs to be changed also. I don't use this one as much anymore. I pretty much use these two. This blade needs to be changed also. It is not sharp. But today, since I just changed this, we'll use this one. And this is the image that I had started on. I am still not 100% sure that I'm going to use this on the spread that I have up here. I had these sweet peas that I had cut out a while ago, and I'm still kind of gravitating to using the sweet peas. I don't know though, so since I already had those cut out and I've been sharing my process with putting these pages together, and I know that several people have been asking how I cut these out. Even though I might not use this one, I wanted to go ahead and share this with you, share my process with cutting this out, so that you can see how I do it. Even though in the end I might not use this one, I did get this one cut out, and I think that it's going to work really well right here. I actually was walking last night, and let me turn my light on here. I just realized I didn't have my light on. There, hopefully that's a little better. I was walking last night, and a part of a song came on that I was listening to, and I heard the lyrics, and I was like, I immediately saw, oh, well, with the lyrics, I immediately saw these people in the background, and I thought, oh my gosh, that would actually go perfect with this image with people in the background. So I don't know if I will use this with people in the background, or if I'm going to try to find something different where you can see the people in the background. But for the song lyrics, I actually need to have a crowd of people in the background. So I thought that was pretty interesting, how I had been talking about about this and needing to cover these up in my last video. And also, I know I've always mentioned how important music is for me and my art journaling and just everything. It's just, oh gosh, that's a whole other video talking about all that, just how music influences me so much in my artwork and in my life and everything. But I thought it was really interesting how that song, came on, and I've actually heard it several times. And just last night when I was walking, and I just saw all of it perfectly in my head. So I don't know about this part, but this one, I'm liking how that comes together. So in my last video, we pulled out these images to possibly use in this journal, and they usually come, on a big sheet. And with this one, and in the past, I have always just cut off all of this excess around the image just to get it out of the way. A lot of times, as I showed in that one, I'll see what's on the other side. If there is an image on the other side, I will do my best to save the pieces and the parts that from the leftover paper, because I will save those and I can use those on other pages. So that's the first thing that I usually do, and that's what I did with this one. And as I kind of started cutting this out because I'm really anxious to see how this was going to turn out. And then that's when I stopped myself and I was like, okay, wait, I need to film some of this so that I can share with you all, how I do it. So I moved on to one of the other images that I had pulled out the other day. And I actually started doing this one differently, because this one has these very, very, very fragile, little itty bitty thin stems in it. And I decided to actually leave the image on the full sheet of paper to kind of help stabilize these smaller pieces as I'm cutting it out. So just kind of hold it all together to make it a little bit easier, hopefully, since this one is so super fragile. And so that is what I've done with this one. I've actually cut all of this out, except for these little flowers up here. So that's where I am right now. And so far, it seems to be working quite well. This one is actually cut out also. So that's just something new that I've been trying with these that are super, super delicate. With these bigger leaves and stems, it's easier to work with because they just kind of hold themselves together. But since this one is super, super fragile, I'm trying that, but I am still, of course, after I'm almost done, I will flip this over and cut off any of these pieces of these leaves and bits of flowers that I can use to tuck in onto other pages if I need them. So that's kind of that one that I've got going on. And then what I how, you know, first of all, I sit. Let me sit down. I always stand when I work. Let me get this paper moved out of the way. Okay, I am a stander when I work, usually. I used to work at an elementary school in the workroom, and I got used to standing there and doing creative things. I used to the images, we would blow up just fun images for the teachers' doors and things like that. And once people figured out that I knew how to color, then that kind of became my job. And we had a lot of chalk pastels, and so I would use those to color in these images. And of course I had fun shading them and all those things. So that kind of got to be my side hustle at school. My main job was actually to do all of the copies for the entire school. You know, back in the day when we still had homework on paper. My kids really now don't have anything like that. Everything's on their laptop. But anyways, I got used to working when I stand, when I was working there. So that just kind of carried into how I work now. Whenever I really first started doing art journaling, I had, my space was a cabinet space in the mudroom in our house, and with it being just kind of like a countertop that I was working on, it was kitchen countertop area in the mudroom. It was difficult for me to sit at the countertop because there's no place to put my legs. So I just got used to standing. But this is one time where I have to sit down. So let's see. So what I do whenever I first start is I cut out, let me zoom you in a little bit. And I hope that I stay in the camera. I will do my best to keep things in the right space, which actually, since I'm going to be moving this around a lot, and I am using my phone, so it is really difficult for me to see to make sure that I'm staying in camera. So I'm just gonna, I put some sticky pads up there so I know to not move my little board out of this space, because I usually start turning things around whenever I get going. So all right, that will help solve that situation. Hopefully we stay in focus. So what I do whenever I start is I look at it, and I start with the little smallest inside pieces first. So anything that is completely connected on all sides all around. And I know if, as you look at this, you're like, okay, wait a minute, she's already cut these leaves out. And I did that because last night I was really wanting to work on this, and I got a little anxious and started going around some of these leaves just to do something, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to. I started working on that root one, and then my blade started getting dull, and it was just a whole event last night. So just for something to do, I started doing some of these leaves. And as you can see right there, this is another reason why I had to be careful. Some of these start getting pretty fragile, where thin pieces are connected together. So I think what I'm going to do right now is do a little band-aid, and I'm not sure, I think this one might already have a couple little band-aids on it. If you can see right here, there is a piece of paper glued on that little strip. So I just cut little thin pieces of paper. Right there is where this is all wobbly. So I just take, this is just part of the sheet that I've cut out, and I've got my liquid glue here in these little squeeze bottles. I picked these up from Michael's, and I found them over by the Tim Holtz things. It was a pack of 3, and it was kind of over by where the alcohol inks are at. So I saw that and I thought, you know what, this might be absolutely perfect for gluing things down, since I'd been doing these crazy collages and I'd gotten to the point where I was using, I've always just used a glue stick alone to glue anything down, and as my collage pieces have been getting more and more intricate, it has been more and more difficult to glue those things down without tearing them up, because glue sticks, the older they get, the more that you have them open, they start getting really thick. The glue starts getting thick. So I knew I needed to do something else, to figure something else out, and I then off and on kind of started using just good old tacky glue, and that was working well, but it was in, it's in that big bottle. So I stumbled upon these little bottles and I thought, you know what, that might be perfect. So I picked those up. I use this glue just because it was the most for my money. That's the honest the reason why I bought it. I got the most amount of glue for that amount of money, and it said that it dried clear and it was permanent. So, and non-toxic, great, acid-free. It doesn't matter because obviously I'm using magazine pages, and the last thing that magazine pages is acid-free. So that wasn't important for me. Dries clear and permanent was the big thing. And then just the amount that I got for the amount of money that I paid. I think this was maybe it might have been $10, $11. I'm not sure. But I did get this at Michael's, and I haven't the faintest idea how much these were. $3, $4. I don't know. So for sure something to pick up, whenever they've got things like that in that area on sale. So this does annoy me and gets in my way, but I don't want to take it off because I know that I will lose it, that I'll misplace it on my space. So I just deal with it and leave it on there. And I know after a while that I might get used to it. It just, as I kind of start moving things around, then this flips out and can get in the way and be bothersome. But it's more just kind of trying to think about how I'm holding on to it. So, and a lot of times I'm just not focused on how I'm holding that because I'm so focused on how I'm going to be gluing this down and what parts to put down first and things like that. So let's get back to our little wiggly spot here. So it's right here. And what I do is I just cut a strip of paper. Here's another one right here. So that one I had to cut at a little bit of a curve, so it would curve around with that little piece of vine. And this one is pretty much a straight piece, and it's fairly thick, so that's kind of nice. It's very nice. So the other thing that I use a lot is my trusty little tweezers. I've had these for ages, and you can tell they are bent up. They're paint covered, they're glue covered. I use these all of the time with my journaling. They are great to hold on to things, especially whenever if I'm assembling a lot of pieces for collage, if it's got a lot of different pieces on it, and then putting down book text, it's awesome. So it's nice because if I have like a little part of a flower, I can hold on to it, like this, and maybe kind of do that to see if I'm wanting it to be in these certain areas, and it keeps my hand out of the way. So I use these a lot for all sorts of things. So what we're gonna do is just cut. Oh, my scissors are on the floor. Okay, So I just cut a little strip of paper, kind of just trying to guess how thick I need and how long. And it doesn't have to be super long, but just long enough to kind of, you know, secure that down. So then that looks fine. So then what I'm going to do is get a piece of deli paper here. I don't want to get glue on my work area. A lot of times I just do this. I do this over to the side. So I'm just going to put a little strip of glue on here. And since this dries clear, you know, I'm okay if it goes off the edges and things like that, because I know it's not going to be seen. So pick that up with our tweezers. Right here is where it's wobbly. Let me see how wobbly that is. And I'm just going to lay this right on there. And just press it down, make sure that it's in the right space. If I need to move it over, I can. And that is how I solve that problem. See, so you can already tell how much more secure it is. It's not flailing around. So I have also done this when I have accidentally like cut something off, or if it completely breaks off, like if that leaf had completely broken off, then I could reattach it using that same technique. So I've had to do that many times because paper is paper. Paper's paper, and when you're cutting it so with these just delicate pieces, and you've got where they're joined together, where it is so thin, it happens. So I do not get bent out of shape about it. I don't feel like, you know, when it does get broke off, that you can tell, that anybody can notice. If you can, then you're paying you're paying close attention to stuff that isn't like too terribly important. So, all right. So what I do is whenever I start is I look for any of the small areas that I can cut out that have all the sides, you know, it has all the sides. So all these inside spaces, I don't start like on the outside like these. And that is a lot of reason why is because things like this happen, because these outside ones, once they are cut from the larger piece, they are more prone to getting broken off, to bending to where they could break off like this one was, and things like that, because there's a lot of movement around that happens as I am cutting things out, because I have to turn it as I cut it, or just to get it at a better angle for me to work at, for me to see, and things like that. So with these super delicate pieces like this, these thin vines, I cut them out first because all of this is helping keep this stable. It's like a stabilizer in sewing. So it just helps reinforce all of it so that it isn't so delicate. So that is where I start first. And let's see here. It's just more, then it's just cutting. I need to get my glasses on. And this is where I have to sit, because it's really, I just kind of sit here. I have music on, and I just start I forgot that this is a nice new blade, because the one I was like just now trying to push down super hard to get it to cut, and I forgot this is new. So it is slicing through this like butter. But I just cut it, flick that little piece on the floor, and that's why my floor looks like it does. But I just kind of start in one area and just start working my way around and doing all the small pieces. With this one here, I started at the top and just started working my way down. So I did all of these inside pieces and then did these tail pieces at the end. And this one looks like it was so incredibly difficult to cut out, but it was actually quite easy because it was held together so well that cutting out all these little small pieces really didn't affect the stability of the things as I was cutting them out. Down here, it was a lot more difficult and I had to be a lot more careful. But that is just how I do it. I just usually start up at a point and I go down, and then I start at the next end and I go down with these really small, thin pieces. A lot of times I do kind of try to hold some of it with my fingernail, which you have to be careful because these knives are sharp and you don't want to cut your fingernail. But it's just pretty much like this. Let's see. Sometimes I do like, let me find a good example. Sometimes I'll do like both sides. So like on this one, is that what I just did? That might have been what I just did. If I've got like a more of a square type shape, I might do the two, like these two sides, and then I'll do those two sides. So as I'm doing these two sides, once again, it's just kind of more of a, just helping keep things stable as you're cutting them out. So I just kind of go along and do that. Sometimes I move the paper like this. I keep the blade. I know this is difficult. I'm trying really hard to keep my hand out of the way. I'll keep the blade, like I had just cut this here. I'll keep the blade there and turn the paper. And then keep going. Just like that. Which is why I put these here, because I knew I might be moving my little mat around. But I do turn things around like that, which is another reason why I try to save these areas for the end, because they can get snagged on my little mat, on the edge of my work area, just things like that. For these little leaf areas, you can see how you've got the edges of the leaves. This little one has it. I just kind of do, so I'm doing kind of the top part first. I'll do a bigger leaf to show you better, and then I do the bottom. Get the bottom of this. And I don't always, get it completely cut through from end to end. So there are times when I will have to go back and get the little corners where maybe I didn't get get it cut completely from end to end. That's another good thing about having a super sharp knife, is that helps with that. It seems like the more dull they get, it's just because this is not cutting through the paper very well. So I'm having to watch for sure as I'm moving things around this here to make sure that I'm not catching it on things, or I'm going to be having to put another Band-Aid on it. But for me, I know that this is some pretty heavy duty heavy duty collage cutting. So you can see right here I didn't get it all the way through. So I just kind of go in here and just really gently just kind of poke it. You can usually get it. There. But yeah, I know that this is like some heavy duty X-Acto work here, X-Acto knife work, and I know that this is not for everybody. Did you see how that did that right there? See how it's trying to snag and not wanting to cut? So I'm going to come at it at a different angle here. There. For me, this whole process, and I think it's part of the reason why I have become so drawn to it, is for me this whole process of cutting things out like this has become very, very soothing for me, believe it or not. I really look forward to sitting down and spending time working on these, and it has become, for sure, a very meditative and calming process for me. I know that probably for some people, they see this and they're like, this has got anxiety written all over it. But I have learned that as I do these, I really don't think that I'm thinking about much of anything else. And that is very nice. It is nice to just be so focused on the movements of my knife and everything that goes in to just cutting out just that one little piece, like right here. That's just like the only thing that I can focus on, and it's difficult for me to be talking while I'm doing this, actually, because, you know, in my mind, I am feeling, I am paying attention to how the knife is feeling in my hands, to how smoothly the knife is going through the paper. Does it feel like it's going through it okay? Is it going to start snagging somewhere? If it's getting ready to start snagging, am I going to like try to push it through, or am I going to, you know, is this a space where I need to stop and, you know, try to cut it in a different direction? Which way do I need to maybe turn the paper to get to the next angle? What side am I going to cut next? It's all those little thoughts that are going through my mind as I'm working on this, and it occupies my mind so much that I really, really just don't think of much of anything else. If it's something more simple that I'm cutting out, then
I think that I probably do maybe think about other things, but it's not anything really, it doesn't seem like it's anything really specific. It's just more, still, I'm just focused like so much on what I'm doing that I think about things, but it's not like the typical, it's like this blocks out any of the bad overthinking that I can do. And it keeps whatever part of my brain is that likes to go in those places, it keeps that busy to where where my mind is open up to think about other things. So I always have music on whenever I'm doing this, and so I might be listening to the lyrics. I might kind of be listening to it, but then again, I might not really be hearing it. I might hear something that, kind of like when I was on my walk last night and I heard that song and I immediately saw it in my journal. I might kind of have something like that happen, and then I always take a second and write down that song so that I can go back later and make sure that I get those lyrics written down. It's just things like that. So that is why I really enjoy, have really just gotten to where I enjoy doing this, because it really just slows me down. And there are sometimes when I will cut something out just because I feel like sitting and cutting things out. I might not necessarily feel like doing anything else, but I know that I need to do something creative, but I'm not really sure what. Or I'm just like feeling the need to do something that's where I'm using my hands and doing something, but it's something quiet and calming. So I will do that a lot. But let's see, here's one of these leaves. So with the leaf, to get these little edges, and you don't have to. If you want to not mess with that, you don't have to. Just kind of follow along. Nobody's going to really know. It's still going to be beautiful. But I just kind of like doing it because it just adds to it. But I'm going to go along the same edge on each of these points and do all those, and then I will get the little bottom area. That just kind of helps keep them nice and crisp and sharp looking, the points of them, of these little leaves. And as you start, doing more intricate cutting like this, you will figure out ways that are easiest for you. So, because I know that everybody does things differently in their own way and what's most comfortable for them. So I definitely encourage you to kind of pay attention to what works and what doesn't. And if something's not working, then kind of figure out why that's not working for you, and see if there's a way that you can make a change so that it works better. And I don't rush doing this. Some of these, I've had some that took me a few days to cut out. A lot of times it's because I just didn't necessarily have the time to sit and, try to do a bunch of it at once. and other times I just felt like I needed to stop for a while, and so I stopped, and then I would pick it up a little bit later. But other ones I can sit and sometimes I'll just sit and I'll get the whole thing cut out really quickly. So I do not try to speed this up in any way. I'm really looking forward to getting these last few pages done. So I have a feeling that after I stop videoing this, that I will go ahead and get this finished up so that I can start putting the pages together a little bit more, because I'm not really gonna be able to move forward until I decide if I want to use this or if I want to use this one. But that's kind of it. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I wanted to tell you. Like I said, it's kind of difficult for me to be talking right now because I get very focused on just cutting things out. There are times when I will use both. See, that got broke. That is almost broke right there. So I'm gonna hold that. I don't know if that is cut through all the way up there or not, where it's right by the leaf. There are times when I do use scissors. So it's, you know, not all of my things that I cut out are done completely with an X-Acto knife. Sometimes I will use both. What piece was that? Oh, it was right there. I think that. Boy, that's. I'm gonna leave that for now. It's not. It's still connected. It's just really wobbly for some reason. There are a lot of times where I will use scissors, like for this one here, especially on these bigger pieces where like these big leaves, I will use my scissors. They're, you know, they're straight and just big areas. So sometimes I will use those. And for sure with like the roses that I use a lot, just like the single roses, I'm just gonna, like roses like this, all of this was cut, these I cut just with scissors. So I do use just my regular scissors, often, and sometimes both. I'll use scissors and an X-Acto knife to cut things out. But this basic concept, as far as like cutting out the inner pieces first, that's what I do with all of pretty much everything that I cut out. I just go through and cut out anything that's surrounded. So, for example, I'll just to show you a couple things, and then I might stop. I don't want this to carry on too long. I don't know how long you guys can sit and watch me cut. It's like watching paint dry probably. These are the ones that I recently cut out that I've had. And so just to give you some different examples. This one, the same concept. I cut out all these little inside pieces first, and then I just went around and did the outside. So this one was a lot easier to cut out. Same with this one. This one went quite quickly. Because you know, the straight lines are a whole lot easier. They're a lot easier to cut. Even like this one, looks like it's super, like it was super difficult, but it was actually fairly easy because pretty much everything was just doing, you know, a straight down line. It wasn't a lot of these curves and whatnot like I've got going with these this vine or in here with all these curves. They're a little bit more difficult. You have to be a little bit more careful as you're cutting them out. But there's that. And then this one is another one that is super fragile, but it was fairly easy because it was just doing more, just a lot of straight lines. Sometimes they look really pretty on the back. These are out of that older book with the older images in it. So this paper is a lot older and a lot more fragile and can be a lot more finicky to work with if you do not have a good sharp knife. So, let me think. I am not sure if there's anything else that I need to say, because I could just sit here and sit here and sit here and slowly get this done. Just kind of cutting and turning and cutting and turning and looking at it and seeing what you want to do next and doing that and cutting and turning and cutting and turning. But I do put lots of band-aids on them. That happens probably with just about everything at least once. When it's delicate, things like that, this. There are times when I do not cut it as thin as maybe that bit of vine is, because it would just be impossible for it to stay together, especially with then gluing it down. So I will kind of go a little bit outside of the actual stem. I don't know if I want to try to cut those little frayed areas off on there or not. On that little bud, it doesn't want to come off. There. This is actually not curved like that. It's actually got little fringy spots on it. I don't feel like messing with that. That might even be covered up. Who knows? So I do know though with this one, I'll show you how I remove things sometimes. Because with this one, however I use it, I seriously doubt that this is kind of going into nowhere. The only way that it would work is if I like had it somewhere where, you know, it was going off the side of the page. But if I use it for this image, it's going to make sure you can see. It's gonna go from here to here. So I know that that isn't gonna work because I don't want that. I do not want that sticking out there into nowhere. So that's the other nice thing about doing this, is that you can alter things to work for you. So I'm gonna just remove this stem and get it out of the way. I have in the past moved whole flowers if it's on a side that isn't going to work for that collage, for that image, how I'm wanting to place it, but I'm wanting that flower to be someplace else. I will cut the flower off and then tuck it in on, you know, I either, as I'm gluing things down, I will tuck it in to that wherever I want it to be, or I will just go ahead and attach it to a different part of the image, like kind of like I did the band-aid, or if you accidentally cut off something or break something off, how I attach it on there, I will move that to where I am needing it to be. So you can always change things to make them work best for you. So like what I'm meaning is, like on this here, on this girl, this flower, say I don't want that there. Depending on how I'm going to place this on here, I might not want that there because it's covering up her face, but I could actually cut this off and move it. I could either move it to where it's coming out here behind her. I could remove it and not use it at all, or I could, you know, maybe cut it off here and then use the little band-aid and have it coming out on this side instead. So you can always adjust things and alter things to make them work the best for you, which is nice. But this here is an eyesore. So since these are kind of pointy, I'm going to just kind of try to replicate that look here. Nobody will know except us that that was ever there. If you have any questions about anything, please ask. As far as these pages that I'm working on, I am not sure if, since I'm just now really starting to put them together, I am not sure what else collage element wise I am going to add to them, if anything. So, because these pages are still really in the beginning stages of coming together. I don't always anymore, and this is something that is different from how I went into doing collage pages in my first collage journal. Sometimes when I have been doing these pages in this new book, I'm not starting with an idea. And before, always in the past, I had an idea in mind a song lyric, a thought, a feeling, something. I had that in mind when I was starting out. And that's what influenced the page. That's where the page came from. But in this journal, I was just so excited to finally be starting to work in it again that on a lot of these pages in here, I just did them because I maybe saw an image that I liked, and the page just kind of came together that way. And a lot of the pages that are in this journal don't have anything written on them yet. I don't have any words on them. I just, I made them from being inspired by what I saw, or I guess maybe kind of what I was thinking at the time, but I can't even say that, because I would say it was more just being inspired by an image, and then it just kind of building itself from that, as far as what to do with it next and what to add and things like that. So and that's kind of how this one was. It started with picking out the images. It didn't start with an idea of what I wanted to put behind it. So I guess that's kind of, I'm doing this backwards, as far as I should have cut that center section out first, but oh, I thought of something else I was going to show you now that I'm in this little area. But so many of my pages in this book have just been inspired that way, instead of with the idea first. So I need to go, I'm trying to decide if I want to go back through and see if now they are saying something to me, and if it, as far as inspires what words want to be placed on those pages, or if I should just leave them if they're fine as is. But that is going to kind of be probably the final thing that I do before I call that journal completely finished. It will be going through and looking at the pages in there that don't have any words on them, and seeing if they are ready now, if they're ready to tell me what they want to say. Okay, so what I actually just thought of, and seeing this right here, is what made me think about it. I've got these leaves here that are cut off, and this one down here I'm probably not going to mess with, because how I'm going to possibly place this on the image, it is going to, if I use this part here will actually go behind her leg, so I don't need to worry about that this leaf is not a full leaf. But one of the things that I can do is, if I do want to have a full leaf there, I can cut it to reshape it into more of a leaf shape. I can get into my little basket of partial leaves and full leaves that I have, where I've saved ones that I didn't use. If I've got a large image, say like this, and I actually am placing her on top of it, a lot of this is going to get covered up. So any of the areas that are going to get covered up that I could actually use, I will cut that out and save it. And those are the little pieces that I could then maybe use in a different project. So like if I put this girl here, and then I know that like these are going to be covered, so I would actually cut these out and save them. And in this case, I could use one of those leaves and tuck it down here to have a full leaf down there. But for these little guys, like right here, it's a lot, since they're smaller, I can actually cut it to make it look like it's, you know, it wasn't cut off. So I'm gonna cut the extra off first there so I can get a good look at it. This one here will be a whole lot easier because really just kind of the tip of it's cut off. So I'm just going to just kind of curve it around. Let's get this here. And just round it, I just rounded it off a little bit. So instead of it being a blunt edge, it's curved now. So I can do that here too. This way. And there, what I was doing there, I was actually just pushing it down to cut it. I wasn't slicing it. So to make these little jagged teeth areas, since my blade is nice and sharp, I'm just like pressing down and using that to cut it. So this one right here needs to be so I just kind of, sometimes it's a little bit easier if you use your scissors for that, but yeah, we just kind of turn it into our own leaf here, and no one will know any different. This one, there, see? Now it doesn't look like it was cut off. So that's just another little thing that you can do. Here, these aren't connected so to any vine. So, you know, they're not to this. So I will take that off, and I can tuck it someplace else. I can either, I'm trying to decide if I want that, I guess I'll cut that. The point, the little tip of that leaf is there. That's okay. I can either just not use this at all and save this and put that in my little basket. Or I can, well, I could take this leaf and put it there and take care of that problem there. Or if I use this, say on my girl here, I could, since I've got, I know I'm gonna have part of this behind her knee, I could tuck that over there so that it looked like more was behind her. So those are just, you know, some options. I don't ever throw any of these little pieces away that that I don't use, because they can always be used either someplace on what you're currently working on, or just on a different project. So looks like I started that last night. That's when my knife started getting really bad. So I guess I will go ahead and stop for now and get this finished, because it really won't take me that much longer. All these since I got the little bitty inside pieces pretty much done, the larger ones will be pretty easy to do, since it's just mainly what I just did there. It's just doing these long little pooled areas. It takes a little longer to do the leaves since I am putting in all of the little jagged edges on them. So I think actually that last bit with moving things around and adjusting the leaves was maybe the one. I knew that there was something that I wanted to share, and of course, you know, actually as I was working on messing around with cutting part of this out and the other pieces last night, I'm sure that I was thinking of some of these things that I wanted to share in this video, but did I stop and write them down when they came to mind? No, I didn't. I didn't. So I was just looking for some quiet and solitude. We had, my daughter is in a show choir this year, and we had our big parent meeting last night, and it was 2 hours long. Oh, and it was in the auditorium, and the speaker had the microphone up really, really loud. And it wasn't needed to be that loud because everybody was being nice and quiet and respectful in there. But after about, an hour and a half, and I realized how much it was starting to bother me, the noise level of her voice, I finally remembered that I had my AirPods in my bag, which I always keep them with me for this exact reason, and I put my AirPods in with noise canceling on, and I could still hear her clearly. So she wasn't yelling or anything like that. It's just the microphone was turned up so loud. So after 2 hours of that, when I got home last night, because I didn't get home until 9 o'clock probably, I was kind of done. So I came home, and after I got some stuff tidied up and whatnot, I sat down and started cutting some of this out until my blade started getting dull. And that's when I was like, okay, I gotta stop. That's like the signal for me to stop. It's late, tired, grumpy. And I moved on to cutting those pages for those new collage journals. So that was really exciting. That definitely gave me a little pump of excitement that I needed. So I've seriously had the sheets of watercolor paper, because I get the big huge sheets of watercolor paper to make my journals, and I've probably had those sheets of watercolor paper for a couple years here in my studio, just waiting for me to finally be ready for some reason. I don't know why it had to take this long, but it did. But finally be ready to actually get a bunch made, so that if there's anybody who's interested in them and working in one, that I can now offer them up for sale for everybody. So I'm really excited about it. But it was nice to sit there, and I had playing some records on my record player, and had the candles lit, and it was quite the vibe last night. So sitting on the floor cutting out big huge sheets of watercolor paper. Oh, get this part finished, and then I think I'll stop for now with you all, because watching this has got to be just not too terribly exciting. But then again, I've kind of been wanting to just do this so that you can see how I do it. A lot of times in this case, I think it's easier for me to learn if I'm just watching than necessarily somebody talking on and on about it. So I wanted to do a few different areas of this so you could see. So that is what we've got done here so far. I will glue on my nail. I will finish with these inside pieces and then go around and do the outside, and then lay this on my image here and see if this is going to work for me. And then the next step will be laying it all together out on my work area here and just kind of seeing if there's anything that I want to add to it. I use butterflies a lot. That has always been a huge symbol of mine since I started art journaling. That was I've been using butterflies always, always since I first started art journaling, and well, since I first started collage journaling. So I'll see if butterfly wings can be added to it at all. I don't feel like, well, it's a possibility, I'm not sure. And I also use clocks a lot in my art, on my collages. So I might just kind of see if there's anything like that. I like adding pieces of jewelry to them, especially rings and things. Jewelry can also just be used to accent different parts of the image. But I'm really, right now, until I know what I'm doing as far as this greenery goes, how it's going to be, my mind is really not letting me go any farther as far as how it's seeing this come together. So I think that as soon as I get this little part of the puzzle figured out, then the rest of it will go pretty quickly. But there's just no way that I'm going to be able to visualize anything until I've got this part set in my mind how it's going to look. So, because I can't, picture placing a clock face on it behind something if I don't know what that first thing is going to be, what it's going to be behind. So I'm kind of at a little stopping place as far as visually with this until I get all this figured out. But I hope that you have enjoyed this and that this has helped some and answered some of your questions with how I do this. If you have any questions, please ask, and I will try to get them answered as soon as I can. We are in the final stages of summer vacation, and school's starting soon. So that means work is starting soon for me because I work at elementary school. So I'm about ready to go back to work full time. And so things are getting ready to really start getting busy here. So as soon as that gets settled in, then I will for sure be able to start focusing on some other things that I've been really wanting to work on with getting my coffee page started. So now that all the other craziness has kind of died down for a bit, which is nice. I am kind of anxious about some things. I submitted 3 different pieces of my art to a very large show here in town. I submitted a photograph and one of my collage pieces and a mixed media. So they said they would notify people by August 10th if you were accepted. So the funny thing is that this whole time I thought that they were going to notify people that it said August 4th, which was yesterday. And so I was all worked up all yesterday, waiting and waiting and waiting and checking my email and checking my email and checking my email and getting more and more discouraged as the day went by, and frustrated. And then of course self-doubt starts kicking in and saying all sorts of fantastic things. And you know, it's amazing how like cruel your mind can be to yourself. It's truly amazing. Like without you even trying, you know, you can just be sitting there and it's like, you suck. You suck, your art sucks, and you're not an artist, and you're gonna be like cooking mashed potatoes and corn in the school cafeteria for the rest of your life, and that's all you're gonna be. So just, oh my goodness, it was brutal. And which is probably another reason why I had such a hard time last night at the meeting, is I already wasn't in that great of a space mentally, and so I was pretty vulnerable to any outside stimulations, and last night was definitely overstimulating with all the people and the noise. So but I probably about, I don't know, 10 or 11 last night, I was like, okay, I went online and looked at the place who was actually hosting it at the gallery, and it said that people would be notified by August 10th. And so I was like, they're like, you'll be notified no later than August 10th. And I was like, well, okay, I might still have a chance. And here I have been literally putting myself through it all day and beating myself up and letting that wonderful self-doubt demon of mine that likes to harass me so much sometimes letting it have a heyday in my head and getting me all upset and, you know, knocking down my confidence and everything else. And the silly show isn't even going to be announced until next week. So it's interesting and it's a lot. And I did submit to another show, and I do not think that I submitted 2 different pieces, and I have not heard from them. And I saw a local artist post last night that they were accepted, so I'm assuming that mine did not get accepted into that. So that was also an interesting feeling. It's I know that everything that I apply for, that I'm, not going to, there's a chance, and I understand that and I'm okay with that, but it's still just a really interesting emotion to have to process and have to deal with, and have to just say okay and move on and not let that stop you. Because for sure, I know I had those thoughts last night was, I suck and I don't know anything and I'm not a real artist. And since I have no education, beyond high school, didn't take art classes, things like that, that I'm never going to amount to anything. And that was really going through my head last night. And so, I'm not good enough. I could go on and on. But then again, it's like, well, the topic that this show was about, the second one, was very specific, and what I just kind of submitted it on a whim. I did not know if it would really even work for the theme that they were wanting. And so, I can't say that I am too surprised that it wasn't picked, because I don't know how well it represented what they were looking for, but it was what I had and what was kind of close to what they were wanting. So I was like, hey, what do I got to lose? So, I lost a bit of money because you have to pay. Most places make you pay to submit. But it was $20, and hey, now I just need to take this as a positive learning experience and growing experience, that's just part of this. And what I have to offer isn't always going to be what is wanted or even appreciated by maybe who I'm trying to offer it to, and that is okay. And I cannot let that stop me from doing what I love and trying to share that with other people. So it has been an up and down roller coaster of just processing all of that. So anyways, how many times have I said that I'm going to let you guys go, and I keep on rambling and I keep on cutting. There's this little bit here. I'm going to see if I can get that without causing too much damage. Since my knife is super sharp, I'm able to do that. If my knife wasn't really sharp, I probably would not have attempted that. But as you can see,
motion detected at front door.
Oh, well, I don't know who's at my door, but anyways, as you can see here, this takes a little bit of time, but it's not like awful. If you look at how much I've gotten done, and I haven't been sitting here consistently like working on this whole time, you know, I've been stopping to share with you other things and trying to talk and things like that, but it really doesn't take an awful lot of time, especially when you're doing these straight pieces. So these are always much appreciated because you can just kind of zip through them. But for sure, super sharp X-Acto knife is the best. For now, just another tip, as I am seeing this, a lot of times I will keep some things joined together until the very end. So like this here, right here, these two are kind of holding on to each other. Especially if this wasn't connected to this leaf right here, I would keep these two connected because it will keep me from accidentally breaking this off, or it, you know, getting pulled off or torn off or anything like that, which if I did, then I would put a little band-aid on it, put it back together, and nobody would know. But just to help keep it stable, a lot of times in this case, I will keep these places together. I'm not sure. Oh, I think I might have done that. I don't know if I did that here or not. Well, I mean, on this one, I've saved this till the end. I've got all of it cut out except for this here, because this is where it's just going to really be more difficult for these guys. So I am using this bigger sheet of paper to keep it all together until I'm up here to start working on that. But I will just kind of keep some things kind of joined together just to help. This one, since this guy is all connected here, now that I'm looking at it, it'll be safe to cut off. But if he was all on his own and not hanging on to anybody else besides his little stem there, I would for sure keep it. But now that I'm cutting this off, this is actually what's not very, this is what's actually wanting to wiggle around a lot. But it's connected here, so that helps. But this is when things start getting more delicate. So, because I'm cutting out all these bigger pieces that are helping to hold it together. So, just something you just gotta pay attention to and be mindful to as you're cutting more and more away. When it's, you know, oh, look, see, look what I just did. I just broke that off. So let me finish cutting this. And we will repair that, and then I think I will go ahead and turn off. I have no idea how long I have been talking here. Time kind of like stands still when I'm doing this, so I really have no concept of time when I'm working on these things. It doesn't want to let go. All right, let's put a little band-aid on him, and then we will call it a day for me sharing this part. So right there is where we're going to fix it, and that is thin, and it's kind of curved a bit. And actually I can see here just by like this piece of paper that's curved a little bit. I'm just gonna keep on with that curve, and it's not very thick. And even when you can, when it's really, really thin, as far as like your little band-aid you're putting on, it still helps. It helps out so much. You wouldn't think that like gluing this little itty bitty piece of paper on there would do that much, but it really does. So since this is quite a bit thinner, I'm going to use probably most of this. Where's my... Okay. Get this on here. And put this up here because I don't want to get glue on my mat, because then I might accidentally lay it on the wet glue and then cause all sorts of trouble. So where are we at? Right there. I just broke it. That paper is so thin, I broke it when I lifted that up. All right. The other thing though, when it is really thin like this, you can kind of mold it a little bit. I can mold it to go with the curve of that paper. I can even put this little bit on there. There we go. That guy's wobbly too. And it's easy to get these places where they're not secured very well, just because, when you are using the knife, it's hard to get your point in the exact same spot. So there's some places where you might cut in a little bit deeper than you planned, and so these little cut spots just happen. There we go. All right, I'm gonna zoom you out a little bit so you can see what we did. All right, get these guys out of the way because they're kind of annoying. And here we go. So this is what we've got so far. And put this over to the side because we still might use him. So I know these are going to be side by side. So maybe, don't know yet. We'll see. Oops, got it upside down. It will do something like this. And put this little bit here. I could put behind her knee. Actually, I could kind of put it right there. You see that? There we go. Let me go out farther. There we go. All right, well, that is what we've got going on so far. So I am still not sure with it coming over here on this side, because I want the florals to go from one side to the other. So I don't know if I'll keep the floor. If I use this, the option would be to not take any of this onto this side, but keep it contained to the smaller page right here, which that would actually look really pretty, especially since it's got these really pretty little purple flowers. Anything that I cut away, which I don't think there would be anything. I was gonna say I could maybe put a little bit on this other page, but but I'm not sure. So that is kind of how it's looking if I use that one. The other option is this one, which is the one that I originally started out with because I've had it cut out for a while. And I would have it here. Then my idea with this one is to, if I use this one, I would cut this so that it actually was down on this page. And then this part would be across her. So it would be something sort of similar to this. I can't get it in that space. I can't make it work unless I cut this, and I'm not wanting to cut this until I know for sure what I'm going to do with it. But that is the other option. It would be more like that. So that's where I am with this so far. And then this one goes here on this side. So this would be the opposite of this one. Just like that. So, I mean, I'm liking how these are, they look similar. They're kind of dusty looking. I don't know how else to explain it. They're not, the look of them is very similar. They match really, really well together. And I like how that just kind of makes all of them flow together. They look like they were cut from the same book, and they're not. This is from a book, and this is actually a calendar page. So I like that a lot. This is from my big floral, from my different book. So it just, I don't know. And that, you know, that could be just me like really being silly, but when I'm looking at this, I like how these all look together. So anyways, I'm gonna stop for now because I could ramble on about this forever, and I'm wanting to get this guy finished, even though I don't know if I'll use them or not. So, and maybe I'll use all of them, who knows. But I don't regret, even if I don't use this, I do not regret cutting it out, because I'll put it on my tray with the other things that I've cut out, and one day, whenever there'll be a space for it where it belongs, and it'll be ready to go. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope that this helped answer some of your questions, which how I do this kind of cutting. I will share just like more, you know, something not this crazy in another video sometime when I'm starting in my new journal. So I will for sure share that. And I think on the side, whenever I'm not working on this, I have got some, let me grab them. I have had these stacks, this stack of little artist trading cards that I started, well, before I moved. So before I moved out, before I was on my own. So these have been sitting around for years. Actually, I think I started a bunch of these. I made a ton of artist trading cards when lockdown started, and I think that's whenever I did a lot of these. So these are just like the base starting points of that I do when I do my ATCs. A couple of these have pattern paper on them, but most of these are the dropped papers that I have from whenever I do when I work on other projects using my paint, I drop all my extra paint onto pieces of deli paper, and then I take that and I glue that onto these pieces of watercolor paper, and I use those as a base to start my mixed media cards. So that's what all of this is. I've had these sitting here forever. I have not touched my paints in quite a while, and I've really been wanting to, and I think that while I'm not working on my collage journal, I'm going to start doing some of these ATCs. This is actually a baby wipe that has acrylic glaze on it, so it has a really cool texture. But I want to start making more things like this. These are some of my cards, and these don't have words on them. I usually put words on them like this. For my the piece that I actually submitted for this gallery show, it's actually 4 of my cards framed. Let me go grab that and I'll show you that. So this is one of the pieces that I submitted. So it is 4 of my cards and just matted and framed. And so I'm kind of, with that big stack that I had, I've kind of stopped with looking for words to put on them, because I really like how this looks, and it makes, you know, my little ATC cards that I love and I love making, it turns it into like a bigger piece. So this is actually what I did send a picture in and submitted, and so that's why I haven't moved forward with any of those, with putting words on them. But I've got that stack over there of ones that are needing to be done and finished, and I think it would be a really nice way to get back into sharing my mixed media with y'all, because I haven't in forever, is to start working on those cards. So those are sitting there and they are waiting and ready for me to go with those. So I'm gonna stop for now. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you have an amazing day, and that you make sure to find some time to do something creative for yourself. And it's important, and you are important. And thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being here for me and being a support. Truly appreciate each and every one of you more than you know. Excuse me. And just thank you everyone, and take care. I love you, and I will check in with you whenever we are ready to move on to the next step with these pages in my collage journal. Take care. Bye-bye.